Do you want to hear something insane? Some things could land you in jail elsewhere, but in Finland they're just part of everyday life. After helping hundreds of people relocate to Finland, I've seen how shocked newcomers are by what's perfectly legal in Finland. And trust me, not knowing these differences can lead to awkward moments, a lot of frustration, and even trouble with the police. No kidding. So today I'll show you 7 surprising things that are okay in Finland but illegal in many other countries, and how to avoid and navigate these to stay clear. So let's start with the most insane thing. Finland exposes your money. What if I could figure out how much money you make in Finland in 3 minutes? Check this out.
Verohallinnon puhelinpalvelu.
Tässä soittaa Alekselinna. Moikka. Haluaisin selvittää erään henkilön verotietoja.
Joo. Eli 19-vuotiaaltako?
Kyllä.
Ja mikä maakunta?
Helsinki. Tai onko se Uusimaa? Kumpi se?
Eli Uusimaa.
Joo.
Ja henkilön nimi?
Semmoinen kuin...
Syntynyt henkilö löytyy.
Joo, kyllä.
Joo, eli valtionverotuksessa verotettavaa ansiotuloa 208 278 € ja 51 senttiä.
Okei, hyvä. Hei, kiitos paljon sulle näistä tiedosta ja hyvää viikonloppua.
How is this possible? Well, in Finland, earnings information is public by law. That means anyone can check anyone's earnings and tax information within minutes. And even GDPR doesn't apply to this. So there's 2 things to know. The numbers you receive are not the total gross earnings, as some deductions have been applied. So we can say that around 10% has been deducted. It doesn't tell the income sources. For example, someone can have a salary plus side income from a business. But how can you use this information? Call or visit the tax office. You can call like I did, or you can visit them and use this terminal to acquire the numbers. Ask the numbers. So you can ask about the earned income, like salary, and capital income, like stock market earnings, etc. Make a comparison. For example, if you're working, look up your peers at work to see how much they're earning compared to you. You won't get notified. The people you look up or people who look up you don't get any notifications, so this remains completely under the radar. And I've heard some people do this even before the first date with someone, but that's kind of weird to be honest. And well, we Finns are kind of weird, so makes sense. By the way, if you're relocating to Finland and want to do it stress-free, click the link in the description. And speaking of weird, this next thing is actually illegal in Finland, but everyone does it, and even the police don't care. So imagine this, you're going to your first public picnic in Finland. You have nice weather, nice food, nice drinks, and friendly people. Someone brings some sparkling wine and beers, because we're in Finland. You start to think, hey, isn't drinking in public illegal in Finland? So your friends say, yes, but no one cares. So the lesson is, drinking in public is actually illegal, but no one cares, even the police. But why? So the law actually says that drinking in public is illegal, but when the police gets interviewed from this by the time, they keep telling the same thing. So as long as you do it in parks or similar places, won't get excessively drunk, and won't cause a disturbance, you'll be fine. So make sure to behave, because I don't want to get you behind bars during your first weeks in Finland. And this next part helps you avoid awkward moments with Finns who have kids, or if you plan to have kids of your own in Finland. So here's a funny thing that happened to me. When I had my first son, I was walking in the street one day with my kid and randomly ran into a follower of mine. He came to chat, told me he had watched my videos and thanked about them to the school, and we just had a small talk. Can you believe it? Small talk in Finland. So when I told about my son, he asked for his name, like what was the name of the son? And I told he has no name. And the guy went like, huh? What's going on? In some countries you are required to name the child upon leaving the hospital, but this is not the case in Finland. Here's how naming a baby works in Finland. Step 1. Receive the official form from DVV. So after your baby is born, the Digital and Population Data Services Agency, DVV in short, will send you a form where you register your child's name and personal details. Step 2. Choose your naming style. So in Finland you have 2 main options to celebrate your child's naming. Number 1, religious ceremony, ristiäiset or christening. So if you have a christening, the priest will collect the name information and submit it to DVV on your behalf. So for reference, our 2 kids have had ristiäiset, and we are not really a particularly religious family, but it's just kind of like a tradition here. The other option is having a non-religious naming party. This is called nimiäiset. So if you prefer a secular celebration, you need to submit the form yourself directly to DVV, but it's not really a pain in the butt. You just fill the form and submit it. But here's the thing, step 3, meet the deadline. So you must register the name of your child within 3 months after birth. And if you don't, the authorities will start to contact you and knock on your door. So make sure to start doing this. Step 4. Follow the naming rules. So you cannot choose any arbitrary name, and actually all names are reviewed by an official naming committee, which ensures that the name is suitable and conforms to Finnish naming conventions. And they have actually a power to accept or reject your choice. And every year there is a funny article about weird and unusual names that are either accepted or rejected by the committee. For example, in this article it mentions that someone tried to give Velociraptor and Boot Hill as names for the kids, but these were rejected. On the other hand, names such as Af, Cruella and Tsuge were accepted. So what are these Finnish parents thinking with these names? So I guess now it's safe to say that Finland is indeed a weird country. Welcome to Finland, WTF. And speaking of weird, this next thing can get you a fine of 10,000 euros if you're not careful. Let me illustrate this with a real story. Back in 2019, a Finnish NHL player, Rasmus Ristolainen, who was playing for the Buffalo Sabres at the time, was driving through Turku, a city in Finland. The speed limit of that street was 40 kilometers per hour, but for a short stretch he pushed it up to 81 kilometers per hour. That's more than double the limit. Of course, he got caught, and here's where things get crazy. Guess how much his speeding ticket cost him? Not 500 euros, not 5,000 euros, not 50,000 euros, but a staggering 120,680 euros. Holy moly! For perspective, that's about 2 years' salary for a typical middle-class Finn. For a speeding violation. So how does this system work? Could you get a fine of 100,000 euros? So Finland uses a unique system for traffic and some other fines. Here's how it works. For minor offenses, if it's a small violation like parking in the wrong spot, you get a petty fine, which is called rikesakko in Finnish. These are fixed and usually under 200 euros. If you commit a more serious violation like significant speeding, your penalty is calculated as day fines, päiväsakko in Finnish. And here's the twist. A day fine is based on your daily net income, after taxes and essentials. And the number of day fines depends on the severity of the offense. So the more you earn, the more you pay. That's why wealthy people can end up paying tens of thousands of euros or even more than 100,000 euros like Ristolainen. The best way to avoid an expensive surprise? Well, surprise, surprise, follow the rules. So in Finland, traffic laws are taken seriously, especially if you earn a high income. And the next weird law will get you held at gunpoint around the world with a pat on the back in Finland. In many countries such as the USA, stepping on the private land or forest without permission can result in serious consequences, like being held at gunpoint by angry owners. But Finland is different. Here you can enter private land and even pick mushrooms and berries without any permission. We call this everyman's rights, jokamiehen oikeudet, which means that everyone can enjoy nature freely, even on private lands within reason, of course. We Finns are reasonable. But how do you do this responsibly and avoid trouble, and what are the rules to be exact? So here's a quick checklist to keep things clear. You can walk, ski, cycle or horseback ride in nature, pick wild berries, mushrooms and other common flowers, fish with the basic rod and line, other methods require a permit, swim, boat and travel on ice, camp briefly in forests away from private homes. And you cannot enter private yards, gardens or clearly marked restricted areas, cut down or damage trees, moss or plants, disturb wildlife or their habitats, light open fires without permission except in designated spots, drive off-road without permission, and litter or pollute water sources. It's great to be able to do things legally in Finland that are legal elsewhere. And this next weird thing can get you jailed elsewhere, but in Finland you can actually earn even 10,000 euros. So if you want to gamble, play slot machines and try your luck, you usually go to casino, right? But in Finland you don't go to the casino. Guess where you go then? Let me show you. So here we see the gambling machines, but guess where we are? At your local grocery store. That's right, you just go to the closest grocery store for gambling. What is going on? What is going on in Finland? Well, there are three main things to know. The machines are operated by Veikkaus, a state-owned organization that uses the money people lose to these machines for good cause, like culture, science, sports, and other non-profit activities. Sounds good, right? Well, the problem is that most of this money comes from gambling addicts, people who are already struggling financially. And that's why some call it the reverse Robin Hood, from taking from the poor and put it to the middle class people. And also the games are highly regulated, so if you just come here as a tourist, you can't actually play this because you need to be verified, authenticated, have at least 18 years old, and you also need to be a resident. I remember when I was a teenager, there were no restrictions whatsoever. Anyone could just put money in the machines and start playing, and that causes problems back then. So what do you need to know? So, well, expect to see these machines everywhere. Shopping malls, grocery stores, bars, gas stations, and so on. You need to be at least 18 years old if you want to play, have a residency in Finland, and have an online banking authentication available. And of course, be responsible. If you want to give this out, you can try it once, but please be responsible. And speaking of responsibility, Finland doesn't seem to care anything about your personal information. Check this out. When my wife and I moved to a new home in Finland some years ago, we had barely unpacked anything when a flyer showed up in our mailbox. It was from a local shopping center, and it said something like, "Welcome to our area. Here are some discount vouchers you can use at our shopping mall." But here's the weird part. How did they know we had just moved? Was our information leaked somewhere? But there was actually a small print on the voucher that said something like, "Address information has not been given to the advertiser." But what does that mean? Well, in Finland there is something called osoitteeton on the unaddressed direct marketing. And here's how it works. Advertisers can send flyers to household in a specific neighborhood or by zip code. So they don't need your name, your address, or any personal data. And delivery companies like Posti will just drop them off to every mailbox in the area. And the advertisers do not actually know who receives the ads. And I guess this would be illegal in many countries due to privacy laws, but in Finland that's totally normal. Privacy laws, that's like a porno genre here. So what should you know about these things? So if you don't want to receive this type of advertising, you can simply place this A-mainoksia label on your mailbox, and then these advertisers don't actually put any stuff here. And when you relocate to Finland, there are big mistakes that cause embarrassing moments for newcomers. Click this video to be more prepared.